Redditors who made a lot of money by sheer randomness. What's your story? My wife's aunt died. She had been institutionalized her whole life and neither of us had ever even met her. We kind of forgot about it for a few months until my wife's uncle emailed her and said she was going to be getting some money. We were like, oh, okay, that's kinda weird, but not complaining. Then my wife got a phone call from the uncle one evening. I heard a lot of ums, okays, and geez, ows. Turned out we were getting over $300,000. We were both grinding away making $15 an hour and barely making rent every month. And then boom, out of nowhere, that ended up being the difference between having a house and not having a house. Being able to start a family and not being able to start a family. And having a retirement fund versus just hoping not to get evicted every month. Worked a job for a long time. Got hurt on the job. They, instead of helping me, terminated me. Got a lawyer. A year later got $260K for the whole fiasco. Not sure if this counts, but that's my story. I found $3,600 in a food takeout box in the middle of a giant field. I live in a rich area and lot of drug deals happen, so it's possible I stole multiple thousands of dollars from a drug dealer on accident. The summer after my freshman year in college, I was walking my little 20-pound dog on a street near my house. A neighbor lady was walking her two dogs who were a husky and some other similar sized dog. The husky attacked my dog and in the process I got some teeth marks on my wrist. Since the neighbor's dog started it and the owner obviously couldn't control it, I wanted them to pay the vet fees for my dog, which was under $500. The guy ended up being a D about it and my roommate's dad was a lawyer, so about a year and a half later I ended up with about $20K. I won $5,000 playing bingo on a cruise. I have only been on one cruise, and it was the only time I have played bingo in my life. I have retired from both. In the 90s I fostered a dog for some friends who were leaving town and left the dog with me. This dog immediately made an impression upon me, and even though I really didn't want a pet at the time, he was such an amazing dog. He convinced me otherwise. He was super smart, half black lab, half pit bull. I called him Wisdom because he was so smart. Fast forward a few years, I used him as a mascot for a recording studio I set up. I registered the domain name wisdom.com. My dog passed away several years later and I was heartbroken and depressed for many years. I maintained the domain name even though I didn't really have any projects associated with it. Over the years people made offers on the domain name but I always passed. The domain was a homage to my long lost best friend. Then in 2000 with the .com boom, there was renewed interest in domains and IPOs. I had a few groups bugging me for the domain name and kept increasing their offers. Eventually the numbers got into the life-changing areas of money, and I couldn't ignore them. I originally secured the wisdom.com domain name for nothing. In the early days of the internet, it didn't cost any money to register a domain name. You just had to fill out the right forms. I actually would never have to pay any domain renewal fees if it wasn't for a sysadmin that made changes to the domain and accepted new terms of service that forced me to have to pay renewal fees. Otherwise, the $475,000 I was ultimately offered in cash would have been pure profit. But instead my cost was a few $100s over the year. Still a significant windfall that gave me the opportunity to take that money and create another cool community of wonderful people. I continue to be in awe that my little dog, Wisdom, had the ability to bestow such an amazing gift upon me so many years later, and I'm determined to use that gift to help others. I took the money to create a special space that is a makerspace and club to help others. Edit. People have asked about what I've done now. Here's a new studio and our YouTube channel. Don't have enough subscribers yet to do much. I once got a message from Reddit admin. It asked if I wanted to do some contract work in my free time. Over the course of a few months, I made like $5,000 for browsing subreddits and categorizing them by topic and age rating. I didn't get to pick the subreddits I wanted to view though. They'd send me a list of a few hundred subreddits, and I'd have to spend about 10-15 minutes on each sub. I'd check for certain things, fill out a Google Sheets form, and move on to the next sub. When I finished a full list, I'd email them to get a new one. It was a pretty sweet gig. I was a substitute teacher and a tutor at the time. So anytime a kid or a teacher cancelled on me, I'd do my Reddit thing. Plus, it was an easy job to do while I was homesick or waiting for the repair guy to come to my house. Because I had no set hours, I just worked whenever I felt like it. I used to play Minesweeper a lot. Some website showed up where you could play in little tournaments. I started with $20 and made over $1,000. Edit. I don't remember the name of the website. This was like 20 years ago. I'm sure it's long gone. Playing blackjack while drunk in Reno. I had $300 to waste at the $5 table, got lots of free watered down drinks while I was playing, so I wasn't paying attention. I have a rule. 2 piles. One of cash I can waste and another of money I won. I was there for about 3 hours before I realized I wasn't out of betting money and the dealer had changed 4 times. Won $4K at that table. Paid for the trip and a bit left over. I haven't been to a casino since, but I doubt I'd have that kind of luck again. Not money, but I was gifted a brand new $1,200 laptop for free once, just because I posted about needing a new one on a forum. When I was 17, about to turn 18, my mom told me to open a bank account because I was going to get around $500-600 from my dad. Opened the bank account, signed the papers she needed me to, and got a whopping $15,400 deposited into my bank at 18 years old. 2 years ago, 22 at this point, come to find out he gets a huge settlement for a car accident, I think, and get another $15K dispersed over 2.5 years. IDK if it was back child support or what, but I was really blessed. My grandma decided to try a slot machine once as a joke and won $300 first try. I was the victim of housing discrimination and the morons put it in writing. They literally sent me an email explaining they wouldn't rent to me because of illegal discrimination reason. Had they just not sent the email, they would have been fine. Nobody would have known they'd rejected my application for a bad reason. It's okay to reject applications for a wide variety of reasons. If they'd chosen a fake one, or even given no explanation at all, they wouldn't have found themselves in legal trouble. I made a complaint to my state and the state assigned a free lawyer to handle it. I didn't even know they'd do that. Anyway, the people kept lying and saying I was making it up. They insulted my character in a wide variety of ways that went way beyond the issue at hand. Think stuff like claiming I was faking. Reason they discriminated in the first place. So how could they discriminate against something I was faking? It was just ridiculous. In the end, I wound up with a decent sized check. Again, when I reported them, I thought I'd never learn the result of what the state would decide to do. I was just reporting a broken law. But the best part was that the lawyer asked me if I wanted them to have to take an anti-discrimination class because, if I did, the state would include that in the punitive measures. I did. The class was 2 hours away from them in the constant traffic of our area, and I liked imagining them having to sit there in some ugly depressing room while being educated about why they were itty people and needed to stop being itty. I started an Amazon private label business on a whim in 2015. I made about 25% of the sale in profit after product, shipping, and advertising costs. Sales doubled every month for 6 months: June $4K, July $8K, August $18K, September $40K, October $84K, November $175K, December $362K. I didn't know what to do. I quit my job in January to focus on growing the business. But my time was spent mostly trying to fend off competition copying my listing and posting fraudulent reviews and then lowering my price in the race to the bottom. It went well for a few years, but I never made as much as I made that first December. Lesson learned: arbitrage isn't a long-term business. Not me, but my 14 years old cousin made an abstract art piece that took him 2 minutes max and as a joke put it on eBay for $5K. He sold it. IDK if he was telling the truth, but he did give me UQ 200 for my day. He normally gives around UQ 20, so it seems likely. Edit asked for a pic. Turns out he doesn't have one. I think he lied. NVM, sorry for the inconvenience. My great aunt and godmother was a lesbian. Her partner, my auntie Kitty, had been with her since the 1950s. When my godmother moved to New York City to work for as a magazine photographer, Auntie Kitty was disowned by her family when it came out she was with a woman. My godmother died when I was 12 and left my auntie Kitty everything in her will, which made things strained with my dad's family. Though my dad and one of his brothers still talk to her, I moved to New York at 18 for school and, knowing no one else in the city, we became close. She was thrilled that I wanted to have a relationship with her and spend time with her and didn't hesitate to think of her as my aunt. Even though she technically wasn't. She was legit the greatest. And we spent holidays together and she would come to things I worked on and I knew all her friends and she knew mine. I basically spent a decade with her being like another grandmother to me. As she got older, she'd repeatedly remind me I was the executor of her will, that I was to follow it to a T, and none of her family was to get anything. I got the bulk, my dad and uncle got some, and my sister and my nieces a little. I knew the woman had money, she had a vacation home in the Carolinas and a brownstone in Nick, but since they were bought in the 70s, I figured outside of real estate, there wasn't much. I was very wrong, and inherited enough that potentially I wouldn't have to work ever again if I didn't feel like it. I briefly worked with a guy who was in his late 20s, ex-military. When he got out, a friend of his he served with told him to buy Bitcoin. He bought several thousand worth when it was nothing and forgot about it. When it first started spiking and getting attention on the news, he started looking for the drive because he thought he had some. He didn't, he had a lot of it. Sold well before the peak. Dude made millions. He had an $800,000 house, multiple high-end cars and came to work a manual labor job because he was bored. Needless to say, he didn't stay long and all he did was show off his money and clock hours not actually working. I started live streaming on Twitch a few years back when I was 15. I unexpectedly blew up really quickly and amassed a following in only about 2 months of streaming. I made over $2,000, which was a lot for a 15-year-old. Haha. My previous employer eliminated my position. Our whole department actually. I got a severance of 1 week year which worked out to be 22 weeks of salary. Not only that, I got paid a bonus to stay on for the last 3 months. After that was over, I got a job with a competitor company making the exact same salary and doing mostly the same job. Started the very next Monday. I actually even like working for the new company better. I don't know how random that really was, but it sure felt like a real fortunate way to lose a job. I was celebrating my 20th birthday. Decided to go to the nice casino an hour away from campus with my then boyfriend. We played bingo because that's what I could afford and it occupied some time. We lost. I called my dad. He loves casinos when he has the money to go. He told me to play 3-card poker. I had watched him play before but I didn't know how and was on my last $20 to my name. He told me that would be enough for a hand or two and just give it a shot. The dealer would explain the rules. So I sat at the table by myself. I won. The dealer was really excited for me, but I was pretty clueless. I had a straight flush. Then I just kept winning. People would take the seat in front of me. They would lose. I'd win. Didn't matter. Got 2 more straight flushes that night and lots of other good hands. I kept betting the minimum. Wish I was putting down more. I turned $20 into $3K that night. My dad didn't believe me. Normal Reddit reply of not me but my friend's dad's friend. He decided to open an ice business. Hey, everyone need ice. He bought an old warehouse in the ghetto because it was cheap. Government decided to redo the on-ramps to the bridge and needed to buy like 1/3 RD of his parking lot. Maybe say 20 parking spots worth. He didn't care. He had a staff of like 4. Never used more than that. I never heard exact numbers but I did hear he got more for those spots than he paid for the property. I quit a job at a startup that was a mess, and I just wanted to do something relaxing so I took some time of cleaning up an old algorithm I wrote 10 years ago. I told a friend of mine, who told some industry people about it. They contacted me and I got invited to talk about it at a conference and then large companies started getting in touch. So far I have signed one 7-figure deal to license it. It's not random but it feels very random. I'm making more in interest now than I ever have earned holding down a job. The world is not fair. When Google first came out, I thought it was far and away superior to the search engines of their time. Much more efficient interface. When their IPO came out, I got some. I was 10 years old. Me and my 2 friends found a paper bag in a shopping cart outside the local grocery. It was stuffed with money. We counted it and it was just over $600. We split it 3 ways and went home. One of my friends later crumbled under the pressure and told their moms, who told our moms. We had to return it. I only spent like $10. Turns out it belonged to one of the suppliers to the grocery, who accidentally left it in his cart on the way out. Not a ton of money, but for a 10-year-old kid, man, we were proper rich for a minute. Forgot I had 11 something bitcoins from back in the day left over from buying pizza. Tried to set up a new account to invest in Bitcoin since I'd used it before and saw I already had an account. Logged in and wow. Sold it all and made like $7k. Imagine the feeling knowing it would eventually reach $20k per coin. I was a male escort for about 7ish years. Not a hooker. Specifically an escort. I would go with people, usually women, but sometimes men, and would pretend to be their perfect boyfriend partner in front of friends and family co-workers. It started out very much as an accident but ended up making me a ton of money. I recently retired and started focusing on going to school cause I can't do escorting my whole life. And nor did I want, because I really dislike people and it was honestly a chore. Most of my clients were 1% percenters, which is the reason I made so much money. I did pay taxes on it before anyone asks. My friend's father was gifted an oil pencil drawing in the late 70s. His family always assumed it was pretty much worthless and I always joked that it looked like my friend had drawn it as a child. This stilly angry stick figure drawing ended up being an unsigned piece of art by Jean-Michel Basquiat. His family did some digging and eventually had it authenticated by the JMB estate before selling it at Christie's auction house for an amazing sum of money. I was absolutely blown away when I learned this. My friend and his family were far from wealthy, so to realize they had this unknown treasure just sitting out in the living room for so many years was mind-blowing. I bought a waterproof camera back in 2010 and thought it would be cool to try it out at the new water park that just opened. 1 year later the video blew up, making me tons of money monthly. I still make some during the summer months but not much. Now I'm sitting at just over 100 million views. Edit. Since it's buried in the comments now. Here's the video. One time when I was like 15 I heard a story on ESPN about how a Tiger Woods rookie card that was published by SI4Kids magazine had sold for like $100,000. I had subscribed to SI4Kids around that time and spent part of that afternoon looking through old boxes for that issue. Lo and behold, I found the issue with the page of perforated cards perfectly intact. It wasn't perfectly centered and I didn't want to risk detaching it and ruining something. So I put the whole magazine on eBay, sold it for $500, which felt like a small fortune at the time. I felt like a king that day. Edit. Like one card ever went for that much and it was graded a perfect 10. Then everyone realized it was an option and looked for their card from their magazine. Supply quickly outstripped demand. By the time I listed most people were getting like $100, $300. The $500 I got was well above average when it sold. Mine also would never have graded even close to a 10 because it was off center. Sorry, should have explained that upfront to avoid looking like a total fool. I had a co-worker who had bought a new car, and within a week somebody crashed into him and the car was totaled. He ended up getting a little more from their insurance than he'd paid for the car, and moved on. A year later, he got a letter from the other guy's insurance company saying that they had audited their books and found that they owed him money. They sent him a check for $16,000 to pay for the damage to the car they had already totaled. My neighbor died with no friends or family and left everything in her will to us. Everyone always asks if we were great neighbors to her. I'd say no. We were just neighbors and treated her as we would want to be treated and did neighborly duties for her. If it snowed we cleared her driveway without her asking. Took care of her cats if she went to the beach. Say hello if we saw her. She was a tough cookie and an alpha female. Would be the best way to put it. She hated if I played basketball in the driveway, and when we were cleaning out her garage after she died we found 3 of my old basketballs. but she was also the type of person if she wanted an apple pie she would bake an apple pie and take a slice and bring the rest over to us. Found $50 on the ground once. My now husband's boss bet the table at the company Christmas party that nobody could tell him what the name of the restaurant meant in English. The silly ass did this at an Italian restaurant. I speak some French and guessed it instantly. Boss man took 7 months to pay up on a $100 bet to a teenage girl. Edit. The restaurant was called Venive, which means come go. My ex-husband was a bad dude. He currently owes me over $26k in back child support. When we were together, all of the bills were in my name. He left me for another woman 3 weeks after I gave birth to our second child and defaulted on all of our bills. Both our cars got repoed and I ended up filing bankruptcy 2 years later. Last year I got a notice in the mail from the lender of one of the 2 repoed cars. Apparently there was a class action lawsuit against them for hidden fees, and since the cars were in my name, I was getting a refund of a few $1,000s. I was able to use the money to help move out of my mom's place. Lawsuit settlement. I'm not sure how else you get large amounts of money besides the lottery or options trading. The rich people's lottery. My last employer before I retired was matching 25% of whatever I contributed to my 401k. I maxed out at it every year even when it got to be over 30% of my salary. Most of my workmates were contributing like 3-5% and I couldn't for the life of me convince them that 25% plus whatever appreciation was the best deal they'd ever see in their lives. I retired at age 62 and my wife retired soon after at age 55. Our advisor predicts a 99% chance that we'll be able to maintain our very comfortable current lifestyle for the rest of our lives even if my wife lives to 100. My former workmates, probably not so much. A lot of sheer luck has put me in the position I'm currently in. Getting my college degree, landing a stable 6-figure job. The path I ended up on had lots of little wow I got lucky moments. I could have easily had a much worse life. I put myself in plenty of bad situations. I ended up watching my friends get arrested, drop out of school, have unexpected kids etc. I was just lucky and missed the it-hitting fan moments. On a whim I decided to start selling clothes from my closet that I don't use, and in a month I made over $1,000. Parents died when I was in my 20s and I inherited a small buttload of money. The real kicker was the house I grew up in. It was a 3-bedroom single family with an attached business in Boston. I was an absentee landlord for a while from another state but decided it was too much of a pain in the ass. So I sold it. Look up what a 3-bedroom house goes for in Boston. I was in a car accident when I was 5. About 250,000 inches medical bills. My parents' insurance company and my grandfather, who is a lawyer, went after the other dude's insurance company. We also got awarded punitive damages to the tune of $3,1 of medical bills. Because it's a court-ordered settlement in the particular state I don't pay taxes on it. I am now 23. I have gotten a payment every year now since I was 18. The actual value when I was 18 was about $560,000. I have paid for my college and will have the remainder of the money by the time I'm 27. I can effectively contribute nothing to my retirement and I will likely retire a millionaire. At the time it was terrible. I was near death for about 18 hours and in surgery, but now I am perfectly healthy and have only minor scarring on my face. All told, I count myself very fortunate for not only surviving but also having a nice nest egg. Not fast money, but I lucked in to get hired by our employee-owned business. You earn 25% of your annual salary in stock. I have 6 figures worth. I hope to afford a decent retirement. I built a motorcycle back in 2011. Pretty well all the parts on it I built. Took it to a few rallies, few shows, made its way around the internet, some magazines. Had a ton of people ask if I sold this part or that part. So I started in my garage. Sold right about 10,000 parts out of there over the span of 2 years. Bought a shop, more equipment. Started automating my processes. Friend that owns a business that supplies stuff to practically every nuclear plant in the world pops in one day. Asks me to design a connector for a surveillance system they sell. Took a day. Had the prototype done. Cut out round about 20 minutes on each individual camera installation. And required no tools. They sold a duck ton of those. Then jumped into radiation shielding. Big effing money in that. It's been nearly 10 years now. Sell thousands upon thousands of bike parts that I designed and build every year. Travel to motorcycle events all over. Generally have a blast. I'm 31. Pretty well have the financial freedom to go do whatever I want. Wasn't a lot, but my best friend and I went to Jack in the Box for my 17th birthday. We spent like 10-15 bucks max. Then when we came out there were two $10 bills in the grass outside. We each took one. That was a nice birthday. Got adopted by the two best people in the world when I was 4 months old. They did everything they could to raise me and set me on the right path. I have a pretty amazing life. Great job. Fantastic wife. Comfortable life. Great friends. Pretty much owe everything to a random event where I was the kid who got paired with my parents. Side note, I recently found my birth family and discovered I have an older brother who was not put up for adoption. To see his life and what he had to endure is very hard for me. I hit the jackpot and I am thankful every day. I agreed to teach a class to a school district. A new version of Office and Internet Explorer. IE was new at the time. It was a voluntary class. I got paid a flat rate, then I got a per head bonus and a bonus for performance rating. The students rated me on what they learned. Made almost 10k in 3 weeks. Basically showing people keyboard shortcuts and walking them through a slideshow show I made the weekend before the first class. It was originally 2 weeks, but there were so many people that signed up after that first week it got extended. The beau came back and bought the slideshow for about $750 and had someone on staff teach the class after that. I had $25 free slot play at the casino and hit a 10k jackpot.